How valuable is a generational running back? We talk about that next on the Unbearable Sports Podcast.
Yeah, she's got some nice long hair.
Welcome back to the Unbearable Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Brad Barron, and make sure to like and subscribe out there on YouTube. And if you are a fan of the show and you want to listen to it on the go, download it on your favorite podcast app. Make sure to rate 5 stars. It helps out tremendously. PayPal, we called an audible. For those out on YouTube, you probably saw the name change a couple times today. As people can see, my background is all orange. You're rocking orange. Today, we're like, let's just talk about Bijan Robinson. I think that's what today is going to be all about. Breaking down Bijan Robinson, breaking down the value of a running back. Should they draft him? Should they not? Should they trade down? All the situations we just want to break down, because when the Bears traded up, it seemed like every fan wanted Bijan. Now, not so much. So, thought we'd give the running back a little bit of love and talk about it. But how are you, my friend?
Doing good, Brad. Doing good. Just sadly the sunshine in Wisconsin is no more, and we're back to, how our April showers, and it just cold and 50s now instead of 70s and 80s. I was trying to get some sun, this weekend, but man, I'm just not used to the heat where I was out there for an hour and I was exhausted. Yeah, it was crazy. Just the sun just does something to you. But.
So I'll tell you though. So that's a little down. I'll tell you an upper today. I had the chicken nuggets from KFC today. I saw all the ads for it and I was like, screw it, I got to go get some. So I drove like 20 minutes out just to get them. They literally just taste like KFC as chicken nuggets. So if anyone's curious about those, their ranch is really good though. I didn't have their ranch before, but yeah, it literally just tastes like KFC as a chicken nugget. Like that.
Oh, yeah, it's good.
It's good. It's not like life-changing. It's not Chick-fil-A. You know what I mean?
Oh, okay.
Like, it's not Chick-fil-A.
Oh, okay.
They look like Chick-fil-A nuggets. So when I saw one, I was like, oh, this is going to be good. And then you eat it and you're like, it just tastes like KFC made a chicken nugget. And, and that's about it, right?
Yeah, I guess to be fair, you shouldn't expect a Chick-fil-A nugget from KFC.
Exactly. It looked like it. I wasn't. Then all of a sudden I was like, oh, crap, this looks so good. And yeah, it was solid. It was overall solid. The ranch kicked it up a notch. But PayPal kicking it up a notch. This is what Bijan Robinson does. So today we were going to talk about best play, like what would happen if you took best player available for a draft. But when we were kind of going through it, we realized, like, as we were breaking it down, a lot of it goes to the question, what if the Bears don't go offensive tackle? Now, last Sunday, I broke that down with some of the Jalen Carter stuff, but this kind of goes more into Jackson Smith-Njigba and, in particular, Bijan Robinson. Now, I know a lot of people love Bijan out there. A lot of people don't like him, and a lot of people don't like running backs, right? I am one that I did not want the Bears to pay running backs, still stand on that. But what about drafting? Where does that sit with everything? Because the big thing is you can always draft someone later. So today is for the Bijan fans out there. We're going to be breaking down Bijan Robinson, doing a full draft profile. Then we're going to be talking about why you can probably wait for running backs, break that down. And then after that, we're going to break down how basically the Bears could get Bijan and still get an offensive tackle and still get talented players. Because that's the biggest question is, can you get talent if you were to draft a running back early? And we'll show a couple ways how you can actually do that and not completely leave Justin Fields unprotected.
Yeah.
So let's go through Bijan Robinson then. Junior Texas running back, 5'11", 215, do-it-all running back. His weakness, he's got 6 fumbles on 539 carries. He set the record for most broken tackles out of any running back with 104. He broke David Montgomery's record. He also has the highest percentage of broken tackles of all time as well. Comp is kind of Edgerrin James. Some people say it's AP, but he can catch. PayPal, what are your thoughts on Bijan?
Yeah, he's really, really good. I mean, you just talked about how he more broken tackles than Dave Montgomery, but the key is when he breaks his tackles, he's still moving forward. It's not like,
Mm.
Dave Montgomery, if you watch this film, especially in college, I remember watching it, he would just do lateral jukes, and which is what we, see, last year and 2 years ago. It's like he's just going sideways a lot. But yeah, he goes straight while he's breaking those tackles, which is something we really like when we talk about Khalil Herbert just as a runner. And we really liked this year was he's got that straight line forward movement. Um, I guess if we're still on the Khalil Herbert though, the 6 fumbles is kind of good, concerning. I mean,
Yeah.
Khalil Herbert only has had 1 fumble in his whole career in the NFL.
Yep.
So it's like if we got a younger guy, it's like, could he take care of the ball? He could make big plays for us, but he could also make big mistakes.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I also love just like, yeah, the moving forward. Cause when I was watching this tape, and it's always so hard because it's like, yeah, running backs don't matter. But when you put all the running back tape together and you watch Bijan, it's nuts because there's times where he lines up in the slot and literally runs a wide receiver-esque route. And I think
Yeah.
that's what kicks him up a notch in the running back book, because I know PFF very anti running back, and we'll see this later on. Very anti running back, but they're like, this guy is someone that can run routes like Christian McCaffrey, right? That's actually another comp like Christian McCaffrey. He's a do it all type of a player. He can block, he can catch, run routes, very crisp routes for a running back. So to
Mhm.
me, it's challenging because if you leverage him all over the you can leverage him all over the football field. If you use him just as a running back, not going to provide much value. But if you have him and Khalil Herbert in the backfield and then you move Bijan out wide, now you're talking about some added value there where now they don't know what to do with Bijan, right?
Yeah.
Um, and I think that's actually why he's kind of coined the term generational talent, because I don't know about you, I don't think he's as good of a pure running back as maybe like AP was coming out. I thought AP
Yeah.
was phenomenal. You knew his name. And even like Saquon Barkley had the home run threat, a bigger home run threat than Bijan. But I think what makes him coined generational by many scouts is just that receiving ability that I think a lot of other running backs just don't have.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if my memory's wrong or something, but we definitely threw it to our running backs quite a bit last year. And you kind of hope that changes. You hope Justin Fields is able to throw to his new receivers and everything this year with DJ Moore, Chase Claypool, and Mooney. Um, but yeah, he's a talented running back, and there's I don't remember the last time there's been a bust at running back when you draft him in the first round. Like, you think of Christian McCaffrey, you think of Saquon, you think of those guys where
It's a good
they,
question.
every first round running back seems like they're not a bust. They're always great. So, um, obviously you're going to have to pay them, and that's what I guess we'll kind of talk about of like kind of why not to draft him at 9, because he's a little bit more expensive then. But yeah, he's a great player, and what really excites is like, all right, getting a tackle, or we get this special Bijan Robinson, like super talented guy that can just change our running game. Um, so it would be I'd be a lot more excited getting a guy like this rather than, all right, we gotta get to watch our first round draft pick and he can just block.
You got me thinking. You do, because here now I have a list. So where are they now? Running back. So there was Clyde Edwards-Helaire that was drafted in the later round, right? Then pick
Okay.
32. So
All right.
borderline. Also, I will say, and I think this is the big difference. Bijan is considered one of 3 blue chip players in this draft. So I think that's where it's like he's got this seemingly high floor. Then you have Josh Jacobs from the Raiders at pick 24,
Not a bust.
Saquon pick
Not a
2
bust.
for Giants. And I think too, when you look at it, yeah, it is that second contract where now it's like, now what do you do? Rashad Penny bust at 27, but
Yeah.
I remember that being like, why are they doing that? Um, Sony Michel, that was another kind of like, why are they doing that at pick 31? Leonard Fournette, pick 4, debatable, right?
Yeah.
Christian McCaffrey at pick 8. So yeah, you're kind of right, because then Zeke, where after the second contract really kind of fell off. Todd Gurley after second contract kind of fell off
Mhm.
at pick 10. Melvin Gordon was kind of Trent Richardson. Okay, there you go. You got Trent Richardson where he didn't know where to play. Doug Martin was in the first round. No freaking.
Oh, wow.
I did not know that. And then now we're
Wow.
getting to like David Wilson. Yeah, Mark Ingram, who was good. Like, yeah, and I think the biggest thing is he comps more towards those blue chip names, comps more towards those great running backs. And I think that's the big difference here. And that's why he actually warrants being talked about, because it's not Sony Michel. It's not, I think if it was like Jahmyr Gibbs, what we were talking about, like he's kind of a faster running back. He just doesn't have it all together. That I think would be a little different. That's not a blue
Mhm.
chip guy. That is like clearly a running back. But Bijan is different. They actually, PFF has him ranked to go in the first round. So that just kind of shows how they do feel about him. But let's talk about some of the other running backs, right? Because we know Bijan's crazy, but the biggest pushback on to if you should draft a running back early or shouldn't draft a running back early is because there's talent later on. And just some names like Tyjae Spears, we talked about. Good receiving back out of Tulane. Roshan Johnson, the backup for him, I absolutely love. I think that he's a phenomenal talent. Tank Bigsby, very good talent. Then Israel, the running back out of Pittsburgh, Zach Evans out of Mississippi, Chase Brown out of Illinois, Kendre Miller, who reminds me a lot of Aaron Jones. I think the Bears could really like him. Dwayne McBride, you really like. Sean Tucker, Kenny McIntosh, and that's just some of the people. And I think that's kind of where this hate of running backs, this running backs don't matter kind of comes into play, because when you put on the tape for all these running backs, most of these look pretty darn good.
Yeah. I love Chase Brown. Chase Brown is the one guy I think.
Really?
Yeah, I that was the one guy I didn't know about, and then I saw him at the combine, and something as simple as he finished every single play. Like whenever he did the 40-yard dash, whenever he did something else, like all the drills, he would finish it completely. He was the guy that would just run in the end zone.
That was Hull. I think
That was
Hull is literally the one right below Kenny McIntosh that I cut off on this.
Oh,
That's the guy out
yeah,
of Northwestern.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
remember it was some big dude. Yeah, because
Yeah.
Chase Brown is also a big running back, which honestly, Chase Brown, I like him too, because he was just like a physical, beast. But yeah, Hull is another guy. That's all right. We can get him. We can even get that short dude that's like 5'6".
Oh, Deuce. Yeah.
Yeah, Deuce. You get Deuce. So yeah, there's a lot of options, and that's where. Yeah, it's like, is it worth it to waste, not waste, but use the first round pick on, where like, there's not that much talent for tackle in these later rounds, but with running backs, it's like, all right, there is.
Exactly. And I think that's when the value proposition comes in. Okay, so like let's say, because right now it feels like Bijan is a surefire thing, right? You draft him, he's going to be good, right? But the big question is, well, where does everybody, like, who didn't you select, right? Because especially at pick 9, definitely don't think that they should do it at 9, because like that would be like, okay, you could have had Paris Johnson, you could have had Broderick Jones, you could have had these offensive linemen, you could have had some defensive linemen, some corners, right? But instead you went running back. And that's where I'm kind of curious, if the Bears trade back, then you could potentially, we'll break that down a little bit later. But that ultimately is the biggest downside of it. Not saying that if you draft Paris Johnson, it's a surefire thing. I think that's where the debate kind of rages on, is because this guy seems like you see him do this, and if he's not good, it's an absolute shock. Like it's going to be an absolute shock to everyone's system, because he shows you everything that you want on tape.
Yeah, and it's just crazy. And I think this almost has a positive and a negative of we had the number one running offense last year. So like
That's a good point.
it's like a good thing, like adding a talented running back that's, first round talent into a system where he should thrive and make it, even a step better. Cause it's like Dave Montgomery, he's a good running back, but he's not, I don't think, having a guy like this that could potentially, he has higher potential to have big plays than Dave Montgomery, which he basically had zero potential to do so. But also it's kind of that negative of like, all right, if we can have the number one running offense without this, crazy talented top 5 running back,
Yeah.
then why do we need to invest in one? So it's kind of that flip of the coin of like, do we want to invest in making it even better, or is it kind of a capped out already where it's not going to get better? Are we going to try to focus more on passing?
Because you make a good point, because Bijan, we said, had about 1,500 yards rushing last year. Over 1,000 of those yards came after contact.
Wow.
Like, think about that. Like, that is
Wow.
nuts. So when you talk about offense and you talk about like, it's one of those things where you talk about just helping your quarterback out. The best part is this guy would help him out in the receiving game, in the blocking game, in the running game. But the big question is, do you need it, right? Because you brought it up. Khalil Herbert looked very good in the system. And we got Deonta Foreman, very hard-nosed runner, very straightforward. And that's where, too, I think that if something were to happen, the Bears did get Bijan, I do think he's actually a very good scheme fit, because he is that kind of, I think sometimes, like, if there's nothing there, he might be a little jukey, but that's because he's the best running back in the league. But a lot of his film, I just feel like he moves forward, like you were saying. He finds the hole, he gets through it. So, yeah, he's crazy good.
It would be so fun to see him in our offense. I think that's the thing that gets me just like,
that
right,
does.
Like,
it does.
He is a running back, but like it would be so cool to see him though.
as a fan. Like, if you're a fan and you'd be like, it wouldn't be fun to see him. Like, come on, live a little. Yeah. Like, it would be so much fun to watch him in this offense.
I think that's where it would add, they got to be confident, the polls and Eberflus. They got to think he will bring that next level and kind of add that extra talent to this offense. Be that much better than Khalil Herbert.
And here's the big question too. So you have to look at the rookie wage scale, because this is where it makes no sense to draft him at 9, right? At 9, the Bears would be paying him about $6 million a year. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of money for a rookie. That's a lot of money for a running back. Because that's kind of the deal that David Montgomery got, like someone who has proved that he can do something in the league. Now, you're really kind of banking that this guy's going to be good then. And that's where I think ultimately the Bears trading down, if they trade farther down, now you're looking at more about like $4 million a year. Not crazy for running back money, especially for someone that could be of his caliber. So let's actually talk about this, right? So for the Bijan fans out there, what would it look like if the Bears were to get Bijan and were smart about it, so to speak, right? Like they go, listen, this guy is going to take our offense to the next level. We have a game plan of this, and it does kind of fly in the face of the Bears. Like the Green Bay offensive system of multiple running backs. So there is that. But if they were, this is where it's just an exercise. What would that look like? Now, one of the options is called the Bijan and Trade Up method. So what you would do is you would trade, the Bears would first trade back, right? And then chances are, because there's not a team with 2 first-round picks later on, right? The closest thing is the Steelers, like we talked about last episode, right? So with this scenario, we're saying, let's say Tyree Wilson drops. And Tyree Wilson screams like he's going to be on the Seattle Seahawks. So Seahawks go, I want him. We'll give you pick 20 and pick 37. So the Bears go, sure, right? So the Bears end up trading that pick number 9. They get 20 and 37. I didn't really look at the draft chart for how much that actually equals out to, but it looked good from the PFF mock draft simulator. So it was actually on the upper side. So good deal from both sides. At pick 20, Bears draft Bijan Robinson. PFF gives it a D plus. Kind of was expecting that. But then you get into this weird scenario where the Bears, what are the late round tackles that they'd want? Now we've talked about them. There's kind of like 5 good tackles. If DeJuan Jones isn't one of them, that's really where you start to get pressure on it. And also too, the reason why we talk about the offensive tackle with this is because that is like the hardest position that's going to that is the most crucial position that we need, and it's going to be the hardest one to find late in the draft.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and it's the most important. And we'll talk about it a little later, but yeah, the free agents I'm not super high on. Like we already kind of, looked at them and scouted them, looked at before the draft. But yeah, it's harder to get that talented tackle later.
and, and this is where it also goes into that best player available, because for the first pick, it seems like you can't really go truly quote unquote best player available because you need a tackle, right? And you really need one. And like you said, we'll break down the free agents. But I will say, so when the Bears traded back up, what I had to do was basically give the 37th pick up. And I was like, you want the Bills? Let's go with the Bills. They need draft picks, right? We'll just give them draft picks. Like they're a good team, right? So they trade back, and the Bears trade the pick 37, 103, and 148. Now, it seemed like 103 could just do the job, but I threw in 148. So you're just kind of tossing in a couple late rounders, moving up a couple spots, getting your tackle. Now, later on, I still got Keanu Benton, still got Tua Pelotu, still got Luke Weipler, and even got Nick Herbig, who's a edge rusher, linebacker. Like he's more of a 3-4 edge, but I think we could find an interesting way if he were to drop that far. So I guess, PayPal, what do you think about this approach? Is there something that doesn't sit well? Like what's your feeling on if the Bears were to actually pull something like this off?
Yeah, it is a good draft. I mean, of course, I love to see Nick Herbig and Keanu Benton, 2 Wisconsin boys. And yeah, Luke Weipler, he's been kind of he's been rubbing up on me. I like him. I like him a lot. But yeah, it for me, I always think like, okay, like these are all the positions that we're hoping the Bears kind of draft. Maybe throwing a defensive back in there, like a corner or something.
Right.
Maybe a late safety for a backup, but it's kind of the same positions. It's just where we pick them. And I mean, all the times that we've done it is we put we put the running back spot, in that 4th, 5th round.
Yeah.
And it just kind of moves things around where it's like, all right, if we had that 20th pick, we could, maybe get an edge defender. We could maybe get, one of those players that we might need as much. But it's still a really good draft. Like, you get the interior, you get the 2 edge defenders, you get the center, and then you just kind of hope we maybe get, basically like 2 defensive backs maybe in the later rounds. But it's still. If this works, like I would be on board for it.
And I think that's the big thing is when you see running back, I think it just makes things more challenging, more difficult, right? Because you see them like if they went running back and then now they have to trade up, but you think about what if they didn't, right? What if they got Anton Harrison or Darnell Wright at 20, right? You go, all right, we got a tackle. And then at pick 37, you get, like you said, let's just say it's a corner, right? Just to make things easy. So they get Clark Phillips, a slot corner that could start, right? They get one of those cornerbacks. Then you're feeling a little bit good. I will say too, though, I heard that cornerback is one of the highest missed rates in the second round because they just don't have the traits. So that is something that at least it's very hard to predict. A lot of these cornerbacks. So that's where, you go, well, I'd like a corner. And I think that's where how much value is it? Because you're trading away 2 late round picks to just move up a couple spots. But those late round picks could hit, right? You want more bites at the apple. And that's where, if they were to do this, then I feel Ryan Poles just has to work extra hard and,
Yeah.
and make it happen, right?
Yeah, I mean, doing this approach just makes our offense look pretty darn good. Like,
It
if
would.
we do this, it would be like, wow, like, all right, let's focus now on the defense because we have everything that Justin Fields should have. Like, we are surrounding him with everything he needs.
Made a good
Like
point.
and
Yeah,
he can't complain.
that is a good point. A very good point because exactly, like, okay, so you got a generational running back, and yeah, so I think
Maybe
though,
Smith Njigba, we could maybe get him to or something, but that's the only, complaint I guess he could have.
I'll be telling you though, if this were to happen, I'd be sweating. I'd just be sweating like a pig, just being like, "Oh God, Poles, what are you gonna do? Like, we need a
Yeah.
tackle. Like, we need a tackle,
Yeah,
man."
if it fails, it's like
Yeah. And I think
yeah.
the big question too is what they think of DeJuan Jones. And that's probably why they brought him in. Because is DeJuan Jones looking to shed some pounds? Because then you can go truly get 5 tackles. If you don't think he's part of your system, and also if you don't think Skoronski is going to be a tackle, now
Mhm.
you're talking about a lot smaller of a pool of these tackles that are going in those upper rounds. And, so that's where the big question comes in. Or even we'll talk about some later round tackles that the Bears might even be looking at as well. Actually, let's look at the later round tackles right now, and then we can go through free agents tackles later.
Yeah.
But some of the big people, so DeJuan Jones is projected to go 41 to the Titans. And then you have Matthew Bergeron, 66 overall, but projected to go 45th. And then Jalen Duncan actually projected to go to the Bears at pick 53. Then you talk about the other later round tackles: Blake Freeland, Tyler Steen, Wanya Morris, Nick Saldiveri, Ryan Hayes, Warren McClendon, and Carter Warren. PayPal, are there, like, I know that we've talked about some of these. Is it still like, who are still your favorite tackles out of this
Yeah.
bunch?
It sounds so like repetitive, but I still, yeah, DeJuan Jones, like I would love to see him just block for our team. I love the big guys, and yeah, just having that massive guy run block, say for a Bijan Robinson, that would be insane. Just having him on the right side and just with Jenkins and DeJuan Jones would be quite the sight to see. But I do love Blake Freeland, even if when he was, projected in the 4th round.
We loved him
There's a
more.
yeah, we loved him even more because there's a reason why he's projected this high now. Like he's got all the physical traits like you could imagine. I mean, he's got that crazy vertical, he's got the speed, he's got everything. Um and he's got that intelligence, and I'm pretty sure he was he was the captain for his team too. So that just shows he's got that leadership. He's got that great locker room, um, I guess, charisma and that character that I know Poles and Eberflus really look into. I mean, you see the free agents we got. They were all high character guys that really, are team oriented.
I think for me too, when I'm looking at like, I'll echo that. I love Blake Freeland. I think that he could be a really good scheme fit, someone you can get later in like the 3rd round. If the Bears, let's say, don't go tackle, right? If they don't go tackle the 1st round, I'm curious if they would almost like double up, right? It might be wise to double up on the tackle prospects, go with the Blake Freeland, or maybe you go with a Wanya Morris out of Oklahoma. I posted this out on Twitter that Wanya Morris so there's 2 prospects that have the closest mock draftable ratings to Braxton Jones. And
Oh
ironically enough,
yeah.
they're in this class, and it's Wanya Morris and Broderick Jones. So Wanya Morris, the Bears might really like his setup, right? And you go Wanya Morris and Nick Saldiveri out of Old Dominion. You go with
hmm
2 tackles, and then you try to do what you did last year, where you take a couple bites at the apple and maybe see if one of the tackles hit. Now, is that the proper approach? It's going to be scary because I really want to lock down that right tackle side. I personally don't hate Larry Borum all that much. I know that Borum gets a lot of hate. But I don't mind if you have like 2 of these later round guys that are competing with a Larry Borum potentially, and even you could even throw Tevin Jenkins in there too, depending on how the draft shakes up, because then maybe Whitehair goes to guard, and then you have like an ultimate battle, a battle royale for the right tackle spot.
Yeah, it comes down to if they are comfortable with what what we have. And
Yeah.
I mean, we as fans, we know what we're kind of comfortable with. Like, I feel like we're all fairly comfortable having Khalil Herbert as a runner. But yeah, that right tackle in the air. So yeah, we'll see. I would love to see if I don't think they are in love with Larry Borum. I mean, that right tackle
Yeah,
spot
doesn't seem
was
so.
in and out, and just it was kind of a crap show last year.
And also, I totally just removed you from the call. Like, I was trying to hide the
It's
stuff,
like
and I was just like, "Oh, crap, wrong one." But yeah, no, I agree with you there, where they give off this vibe that they don't like Borum. And then also too, I look at Tevin Jenkins, and it feels like they don't love Tevin Jenkins either at right tackle, right? Because you would say it would be easier if they just said Tevin Jenkins is our right tackle, rather than like all the rumors coming out that he's actually left guard and then Whitehair shifting over to center, right? It makes things more
mhm.
complicated. But let's actually look a little bit into the free agents, right? If the Bears were to pull off a crazy move like this and they keep drafting best player available and they don't end up getting a tackle, what are some of the free agents at least? So if all hope is lost, what can they do? So there's a handful of left tackles out there. So typical left tackles: Taylor Lewan, Donovan Smith, Eric Fisher, and also Jason Peters. The ageless wonder is still available. And then at the right tackle spot, you're looking more at like a George Fant, a Billy Turner, a Jawan James, and then some that have played both sides: Cameron Irving, Isaiah Wynn, and Chris Hubbard. Now, PayPal, you said that you don't really love some of these guys. Like, you still feel that way?
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan. I mean, Billy Turner, like, I think because he was on the Packers, I was like, I just have like a disgust for him. Um, but I just know when he was at Denver, like, he just did not play well, and that's kind of why they're not signing him right away. Like, he just did
Yeah.
not play well. And you think he would, because I mean, he's playing for his old coach, his old offensive coach, and whatever his name is. He's just got, the guy that just got fired from Denver. So, yeah, I they're not huge. I mean, Taylor Wan was someone that was just fun to talk about. I
Yeah.
think we all kind of realized, like, I think he's going to stick to podcasting from now on. And yeah, Jason Peters, he was fun when we had him. What, two years ago? Like, he did actually play surprisingly well, for how old he is. But yeah, he's that left side. So no one that no one, I guess Chris Hubbard is kind of a fun guy we could maybe try out, but
Yeah, that's exactly how I feel. I lean towards like, what about George Fant? George Fant has been pretty good, so I lean like, I think he's been solid. He's going to be 31, so he's getting up there in age. But offensive linemen, they age well. Donovan
yeah.
Smith, Mr. Penalty himself. Eric Fisher, I'm actually curious about, because he was in Miami, did not play. He was a part of the Kansas City Chiefs and was a decent tackle. So
Mhm.
he did not play. I don't think he played a single snap last season. So to me, I'm like, is he done? Is he cooked? Or is he someone that they could potentially bring in? And I'm looking at George Fant's grades. Yeah, 48. So he did not
Yeah.
look good last year. But I felt like
Yeah.
he was better before that, but he just really kind of tailed off.
Hey,
Other person too. Yep.
sorry, yeah, would Isaiah win? I don't know if that's who you're gonna talk about. It'd just be interesting because, you know, we've been getting free agents that are all under 30 years old.
True.
So, he kind of fits the scheme, I guess.
The question that I have about Isaiah Wynn, though, is when he was left tackle, he looked decent. But then
Mm.
as soon as he was asked to go play the opposite end and play right tackle like last year, that's when he really started to struggle. So is he truly just a left tackle and not able to kind of switch over to right tackle? And
Yeah.
and that's where I think ultimately when we go back to like what we did from that mock, right? Where they traded up to get Anton Harrison, I feel like you have to get one of these like the tackles. I
Yeah.
look at
Oh,
this
yeah.
list and Billy Turner, yeah, maybe. Like he's like a backup caliber tackle to me. And it might be greedy, but I want it. I want a good tackle. I want a good tackle to block for Justin Fields so that we can do a lot more. And also too, if you have a better tackle like that, then your running game will just open up. And I think that's the big piece with it all. So that honestly kind of about sums it up. And I know too, Skylark in the comments was saying Deuce Vaughn, Chase Brown, like you were saying, PayPal, like Deuce Vaughn is just fun to watch as a third down guy. So that's where I think like I still think like, yeah, trading back would be the best option, but it would be interesting to be like, let's see how far Bijan does slip. I
Mm-hmm.
don't so PayPal, I gotta say, ultimately, do you think that the Bears would do this?
Would they do it or should they? That's the main question.
Are
I
they
don't know.
different answers? Are they different answers? I think
Yeah,
that's
they
the
are.
question.
They are different
Really?
answers because, well, I guess they're both. I honestly, I don't know. I think it's a no for answering both of those. Should they? I don't think so. I just come back. I still we're still getting him on a rookie deal, so to speak. But like you said, it's still 4 million, and I mean, I still like this little graph, Brad. But yeah, it's like Super Bowl winning leading rushers since 2009, and Buccaneers. It goes up only to 2020 for some reason.
Okay.
But yeah, Buccaneers, Leonard Fournette, 2 million, which was like the highest out of this list. And then Chiefs was Damian Williams with 1 million, Sony Michelle, which was 480,000, LeGarrette Blunt, 900,000, and then LeGarrette Blunt again with 760,000. I could read out the list and keep going, but
Yeah.
it just shows how even if I guess, maybe we could break the barrier. I mean, 4 million with like this type of, because I think did they raise the salary cap? But like
Yeah.
this,
Yeah.
yeah, this last, so maybe we do have a little bit more of a um barrier to spend on a guy, 4 million on Bijan Robinson, but it just kind of proves like maybe put money elsewhere. And we kind of already have those our running back, so to speak, it seems,
Yeah. I agree. It's a big no for me. And it's like it I hate saying that because I am a Texas fan. Like
Yeah.
like you were born in Austin, I grew up in Austin. Like we grew up as Texas Longhorn fans, and then we moved to Wisconsin, and then like the Badgers. Like that's how
Yeah.
it's happened. And it would be amazing to see him. But yeah, it just doesn't make sense to do something like that. Build the team for the long haul. And I think that's where you need like it's just tackles are so hard to come by. So I think that's where go with someone like that and just
Mhm.
and just call it a day. But no
Yeah.
matter what, even if they drafted him, I'd be happy.
Right?
Honestly,
I would too.
if they drafted him, I'm like, we are going to have some fun watching the Bears. Win or lose, it will be like last year where it was so much fun to watch because we had Justin Fields running and going crazy out there. We'd have two people running and going crazy. So,
Yeah.
yeah, as
Hey,
long as it's fun for us fans.
and I think like with that, I I think we all can trust what they do with Poles and Eberflus. They haven't broke my heart yet. They haven't done anything where Pace was getting to the point where I was like, all right, Pace, like, come on, like, you're
Yeah.
just, I didn't mind him, but I guess it was more naggy. But still, Poles hasn't done anything where like, all right, like, hopefully he doesn't do it this year, but I
Yeah.
still trust him.
We will see. But guys, it is less than 2 weeks until the NFL draft. 12 days, or I think 12 or 11. I just can't wait. It's going to be an amazing draft.
Right.
We are going to be breaking down our final mock drafts next week. And then I think on Thursday, we have something fun planned. You're going to want to make sure to like, you're going to want to make sure to subscribe. And all those listening out in podcast land, please rate 5 stars. It helps tremendously. And with that, Unbearable Sports Podcast, we're out.
Yeah, she's got some nice long hair, and you know that she's a